What's up? It's your boy Enigma back with another Mind of a Black Author podcast. And I hope everybody had a great new year. I know mine was fun. It came kind of quick, as you know. I'm sure everybody wished they had a few more days of vacation, but we are here. And one of the things I promised in my newsletter, if you are a recipient of that, is I was going to do more of these Mind of a Black Author podcasts, which I've kind of been slacking off on. So this is the first one for 2024. One of the last things I did in 2023 was attend a book club meeting to discuss my book, This is America. So if you know my book, This is America, is one of my most controversial books. And I decided I might as well start off 2024 kind of giving a perspective because it was interesting to hear different people's thoughts on the book and some of the stories that were within it and things like that. So I figured let's do a perspective so you can get a behind the scenes on This is America, and you can make your own judgment about certain things. So I came up with this concept years ago. So for those who know me, I started off as a script writer, and I initially envisioned this story, and I wrote the first portion, the first chapter that you read in the book in a script format. And then I didn't do anything with it. I had other projects that I had to keep taking care of, and it kept getting pushed back and back and back and back. Then the George Floyd situation came up, and it was such a powerful thing that I decided that I had to complete this book because it deals with a lot of the police brutality, police killing minorities, unarmed Black kids, and things like that. So then I worked hard to finish this book, wrote it rather quickly. And the first thing people will look at it and says, oh, this is just one of those left propaganda things. Matter of fact, I posted it in one of the reading groups on Facebook, and one of the guys replied that it was what did he call it? Left horse. I don't want to use the word, but horse-ish, I guess you would call it. And I'm like, well, are you basing that? Did you actually read the book? And he was like I said, left-wing horse-ish. And I started to break it down to him. So which part is the left-wing horse-ish? Is it the part where you have a vigilante group that's taking the law into their own hands? Or maybe it's the media that's influencing people's thoughts behind certain police brutality cases? And he didn't respond after that. And that's what this book is. It's basically a lot of both sides, really, that you see on there. So just to kind of start it off, the left horse-ish stuff that he has, yes, there is the vigilante group who is actually out there murdering police officers after they're getting let go from the charges. So the book actually starts off, and I'll talk about this one because it is the first portion of the book. And so you have this police officer who had just recently been let go of charges for killing an unarmed Black man. So he's in a coffee shop. He's talking to this rookie cop who's his partner and kind of explaining how things work. And, he's talking about Black people as their animals and things of that nature, really kind of putting it in there in his head, planting that seed, like this is what you're going to be dealing with. And the point of that was really to make you hate this guy. And it's really to grab your attention, like, oh, this is a racist cop. And just while he's eating his meal, next thing you know, before he can really continue on his conversation, he gets shot in the head. And Brother Damu, who is the main I don't know if you call him bad guy, but the main vigilante leader, he basically reveals himself and tells the young police officer to make sure that he follows things or he could be next. And, that's pretty much how the story starts. And it's such a compelling entry that it makes you, well, at least I hope it grabs your attention. And while I was at the book club, a lot of people said that, like, after they read that, they were like hooked, like, whoa, what the hell just happened? And all of that's by design. I really wanted to hook people and really get them, really thinking about this story from there. Like, what in the hell just happened? So that being said, you talk about the far left, okay, because this book represents the far left and it represents the far right as well. So on the far left, you have Brother Damu, who is a ex-gang member who is now a vigilante who is basically punishing those officers who are getting off of charges. You have Jules, who is his second in command. Now, Jules is a little more aggressive than his boss because Jules lost his brother. His brother was an unarmed Black victim by police once again, and he was shot 17 times. So Jules doesn't trust any police officer. So he's ready to just kill at will, whereas Brother Damu is a little more reserved. But they pretty much run the far left side of the storyline. Terica, she is an activist and a lawyer, and she starts off on the far left, but as the story progresses, kind of changes up a little bit. And I'm not going to go into too many details and spoil everything, but you had her too that was kind of starting off in the far left. In the far right, you have Billick, who is the police commissioner, and he's trying to figure out a way to stop these murders because things are getting out of hand. He has a terror squad that he has with a couple of cops who are running that. They're pretty much brutal cops. They harass, they kill at will, they basically do whatever they want based off of the badge and the law. So you have those guys, they're on the far right side. And then in the middle, which is where most people should be, to be honest with you, you have actual characters. So the main character's name is Duke. Duke was a Cincinnati police officer, and all this takes place in LA, by the way. He was a Cincinnati police officer, and he was part of one of those like groups, those independent investigative units that were robbing drug dealers, and he didn't care for that. He didn't like where the group was going and things like that. So they pretty much set him up to get fired. Now he didn't get arrested or anything, but it was enough to get him kicked off the force, which is all they really wanted. And so he moved back to LA. He's helping his grandmother run a convenience store. Then you have Martinez. She's a cop who was in LAPD, and she's kind of the same thing that Duke went through, but the difference is she actually ratted out her unit that was doing it. And the police liked her. They offered her to join internal affairs, but she didn't want to do that. She wanted to still be a cop. And so nobody would take her after that because she snitched out her old unit. So now she's on the terror squad unit, and they have an understanding basically that she kind of works the streets and things like that. Like she doesn't even know where these guys are half the time. And Reed is the guy who's running the terror squad. And he basically told her, after 6 months, you can make rank. You stay out of my way, I stay out of your way. And we go from there, and that's pretty much where she kind of stays in the middle. And then you have police officer Murphy, and Murphy is at actual accidental shooting. So unlike the other people who actually are going out really just not caring, this was an accidental shooting. So he was chasing a suspect down a dark alley. He had left his flashlight in the car, and he's trying to talk the kid out of it. The kid's in hiding, and so the kid gets up and he's about to basically turn himself in, but he slips on a bottle, which causes him to charge forward. And remember, it's a dark alley, so the police thinks he's attacking him, so he shoots. He regrets the whole situation and things like that. And that's pretty much what the story revolves around, because this is a guy who was in a legitimate accidental shooting, and his entire life changes. And what I wanted to show with this story is really not only how it is in the hood where people, it's all on news now. Terica, she has a thing about putting rallies and protests together. And it's really hard on this situation because this was a legitimate accidental shooting, but he falls under the hand of God or Damu's radar. And next thing you know, they're looking towards, taking this guy out when it was a legitimate accidental issue. So you got all this going on, and this is where the story kind of flows together. So Billick, who is the police commissioner, and I forgot about the deputy commissioner, Irvin. He's kind of in the middle too, but I'll talk about him in a second. So Billick, he's trying to figure out a way to stop this hand of God killing. So what he does is he recruits Duke and tells him, hey, you can be part of the police force again. Your first assignment is to really get undercover with these guys and try to track them down so we can bring them to justice. And Duke agrees because he wants to become a police officer, but he's been blackballed because of that whole Cincinnati stuff. And eventually he finds his way into the ranks of the hand of God. And like I said, I'm not going to go into too many details to kind of disturb the plot here. But one of the things is when he gets there, he sees some of the good that they're doing as well, which makes him conflicted. When he first joins, he's in cop mode, like we got to get these people taken care of. But as he sticks with them and sees some of the good that they're doing in the community, he's kind of on the fence now. Now, he's never agrees with killing any of the cops. He's still about that mindset, but he does take away some of the brutality complaints and things like that these guys are, going up against, and he understands that. He just wishes there was a better way. And him and Terica kind of partner together throughout the story. And there is something that Terica, I'm not going to say right now, but there's something Terica is kind of holding out on him, not really telling him. And he's the reason why she kind of changes her thought process a little bit. Her father helps her out with this too, but there's a lot of things that goes through the storyline, and it's like I said, it's kind of hard to really go into too much details without ruining the plot for those who haven't read it. But one of the things I liked about it when I was in this book club and just hearing guys, not everybody read the book, but we were kind of talking about the situation of the book, and it was really intriguing to get a lot of feedback for those who did read the book. And the way they saw it, they actually picked up on something that I didn't think anybody would pick up on. So, it's great to see that your work, that there are people who are actually analyzing it and reading it for what it's worth. I mean, just to hear other people's perspective on what you've written and their thoughts on certain things, it was really cool to hear that. Um, I know they said it reads like a movie, and the funny thing about it is every time I describe this book to somebody, they say it sounds like that would be a great movie. Well, of course, that's what I initially wanted it to be, a movie, but just kind of hearing the feedback of a lot of people and some of the things that we discussed. And one of the things I'll talk about here, and it's semi spoiler, but not really, it's kind of more of a symbol, if anything, is you notice that those racist cops that are in the book, who they're passing this information down to, they're actually passing it down to rookie cops. So you have these old veteran cops who are racist and, doing their dirt, whatever. And they're always passing their views and perspectives down to innocent rookie cops. And the reason I put that in there is because this is how it starts. They had this show. I can't even think of the name of it. It was from the guy who did The Wire, that was still done in Baltimore. It came on We Run the City or something like that. But anyways, you see the cops and how they are at the time, but then they actually get a flashback and you see them as a rookie. And that's where these cops are most vulnerable. When they get into these departments that has these old way cops, these old racist cops, or whatever you want to call them, and they're the ones passing down this hatred or passing down these politics to the next generation. And that's why it never gets fixed. And I really wanted to point that out in this book as well, as, just at the first portion of the book, the chapter I discussed. He's sitting there talking to a youngster who's just really wet in the game. He's just trying to, be a cop, and he's being passed along this whole information about Black people and stuff like that. And it's just passed along, passed along, passed along. And so, we discussed that. We also discussed, are there ways to actually fix this? And at the end of the book, again, I'm not going to spoil it, but, there are things that are done. And we discussed, was that enough? Well, in my opinion, it could be, if it's treated right, the solution. And like I said, I'm not going to talk too much about it. But, if it doesn't go right, could it go back to the killings? Probably. So I didn't really put a lot of my thoughts on what should happen to fix things, because truth be told, I don't know how to fix it. When I wrote this book, I wanted to show like an alternative reality that if we do not fix what the problem is, this could be a reality. People could start taking the law into their own hands, and we don't want that. Okay. We really don't want to go to war like that, because they're definitely more armed than we are. They're more trained than we are. They have more resources than we do. This is not a war that we really want to go to with the police, trust me. And so, a lot of it is, like I said, you have your far left, you have your far right personalities, and you have your one in the middle. As I was going to mention, the deputy commissioner is Irvin, and he's not for the tactics that Billick is using. He wants to solve these things correctly, but it's all politics. He has to follow orders. And so that's kind of what they're dealing with in the story wise. So really, you're just trying to see if Duke, who is the undercover cop throughout all this, what is he going to do once he's kind of gotten close and comfortable with these folks? He's starting to have a change of heart, even though he's supposed to be doing things for the law. What's going to happen? Reed, Slater, the corrupt cops, they're the ones who are basically, brutalizing people just because they want to. And then they're really the ones in charge of finding this group. And, their tactics are very illegal. And then, of course, like I said, Damu, I mean, he's sanctioning these hits on police officers that are going through the process. And, is he taking it too far? Probably. But that's what's going on both the stories. Both sides are taking it too far. And it's the ones in the middle, the Dukes, the Irvins, the Tarakas eventually, and the Martinez, who are trying to fix this. So the people in the middle are the ones trying to fix this the right way, whereas everybody else on the left and right sides are trying to do their own thing. But again, this was not written as a romanticizing killing cops or anything like that. It's clearly wrong what they were doing in the book, but it's also wrong with what the cops were doing in the book. And so, you have to make that determination. Like, I wanted whoever reads this to think on both sides, because I think both sides, the far left and far right, neither side listens to the other. Both sides kind of do what they want and they just kind of shun the other side. And I hope reading this book could give them some insight. So folks who are on the left side, who are against the cops, yeah, they need to be killed, blah, 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 they can read this and they can kind of see what goes on when, the judgment is incorrect, as in Murphy. Murphy was not one of those racist cops. He legitimately had an accidental shooting and his entire life was ruined. And you get to see that through Murphy's eyes, like his pictures all on television. He can't go shopping anymore. His kid is getting in fights at school because the other kids are calling his father a racist, all this type of stuff for a pretty decent cop, And then on the other side, you got to see that they have these terror squads like Reed and Slater who will go around the neighborhoods, do what they want, beat on people for information, kill if they need to. They're basically, living off their badge. They can do whatever they want with their badge. And Terica, she's a lawyer and she's filed several complaints with them and they never take it seriously. So you have that other side of the police officers who are basically a glorified hit squad, willing to do whatever it is that they want to do to anybody just to get their job done or get their stats or whatever. And that is what makes this book such a thrilling book. But other than that, I just kind of wanted to drop by and give a perspective behind it, because a lot of people think they see this cover. I'm going to show it up again. You see this cover and you think, what is this book about? It looks like it's just a book about some other, like you said, left wing horse-ish that the guy told me. And so it is far from that. It actually has something to say. It's a fictional story that takes a lot of realistic liberties to it, but it is a book that really gets you thinking about both sides of the situation and is there a way to fix this? Kind of gets things talking. Like I said, it's not a long book. One of the things they asked me in the book club, would I write a sequel to this? And the answer is no, because this is just kind of a one-off. I don't like to really do a lot of the politics and stuff like that because, the way I think may be different from a lot of people, because unlike most people who kind of set in their ways, like I'm leftist or rightist, or I'm a Democrat or I'm a Republican, I kind of listen to both sides and then take determination based off of what I believe is fair. And neither side, like a Democrat or Republican, actually has anything that I agree with, 100%. Like, I'm not going to be a Democrat based off of, well, I like this policy and, because the Republicans are this, that, and this, I'm just going to always vote Democrat or I'm always be a Democrat. And Republicans, same way. I mean, they have some things that I actually do like, but I'm also not going to be 100% with them because of some of the policies that they put in order. It's like if they can somehow merge some of these and become an independent, for example. An independent is what we need in the office and stuff like that. But, like I said, I don't want to get political because I don't really dig a lot of political things. But also in this story, the story that I needed to tell was told. Writing a sequel to this would be just kind of double dipping a little too much. And I don't think it's really necessary once you see what happens in it and goes from beginning to end. I don't really think that's one of the things that we really need to revisit. It was a compelling story. It does deserve to be a movie. I would love to see this in theaters. I think they would probably, if it was in theaters. I think most of the political talk or the actual brutality talk would be missed in a movie, because I think they will make it more action oriented, because there are a couple of scenes in here that are pretty action oriented, but I don't want this to be an action oriented story. There is a lot of story to tell on both sides, and I would really love it if people could kind of like listen to it, watch it, and hear the actual things that I was trying to say with it. But Hollywood is Hollywood. If they ever got a piece of this, it would end up being nothing but a action movie. So that's it for today. I just wanted to kind of touch base with that. I mean, I was really interested. This is my most controversial book, and this is the book that the book club wanted to actually discuss, and I had fun with it. It was a good experience. If you want to check this book out or any of my other works, you can hit me up at www.enigmakid.com, and that's www.enigmakidd.com for my listeners. Look forward to, in 2024, I am at the point right now where I'm about to wrap up my third sci-fi novel. So if you're a fan of the Danark series, there will be a third and probably final installment of that. So I'm very excited about that. It had a couple of characters that I had to, I'm still kind of hurt about some of that. But anyways, that's where I'm at right now. Hopefully that'll be out within the next 2 months. So if you've read the first two books, and just FYI, you don't have to read those first two books in order. You can read them in any order that you want, but you need to read both of those books before you read this third installment. So I'll have that. And then after that, I don't know. I have a couple of ideas on which way I wanted to go with certain, my next publishings, but we'll have to wait and see, because sometimes a lot about writing is getting that motivation. I will be in San Antonio for the African American Book Fair, I think it's called, I think it's African American Book Fair. So I'll be in there in February. Some more information on there. And I'm also thinking about taking this other event the week before out here in Dallas. So I'm still trying to consider that. So I'm trying to, be out there a lot this year. I definitely will be at the Texas Author Con in July. I'm already signed up for that one. I had so much fun with it last year that I signed up for it immediately. And so hopefully next year, this year now, 2024, I'll have the same type of success. But as always, check me out, hit me up on my website, hit me up on Facebook. And if you have more information that you would like to get about this book and many others, like I said, check me out. It's your boy Enigma signing off. Deuces.